The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Maya, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Yesterday, we were live with the students of Ramsey Grammar School. And if they said anything you'd like to react to, anything you'd like to add to, then by all means get in touch. Otherwise, we're open line today through till 1. I wonder if today we could actually solve what to do with Douglas Beach. Maybe I'm being a little over-optimistic, but it'd be nice to know, wouldn't it? It's been a bit hectic this week, hasn't it, with the steam packet? Or were you at that roadshow last night in Ramsey Grammar School? It was the last in a series of police roadshows took place last night. The North told the constabulary what their main concerns are and within their neighbourhood. Court leniency they talked about. You may have heard the Chief Constable talking about assaults on emergency services and what to do. Dogs barking are quite big in Ramsey. Any thoughts on that, really? It looks to be set for a weekend of disruption if you're trying to get off the Isle of Man on the Manxman. A raft of sailings have already been rescheduled. Increased siltation. Didn't know that word existed until a couple of weeks ago. Increased siltation at Heysham, and poor weather have been blamed for the changes, which also saw the 2 crossings cancelled yesterday. And of course, they're not the only challenges facing the steam packet company this week. On Wednesday evening, passengers on the overnight boat to Lancashire, to Heysham, were at sea for the best part of seven hours. Were you on that? Crikey. What's happening?
If you're the type of person who'd rather fly than sail across the Irish Sea, then the journey some island residents had to endure on Wednesday evening would probably be the stuff of nightmares. Despite a scheduled departure time of 7:45 p.m, the Manxman didn't leave Douglas for Heysham until shortly after 9. This was due to freight being loaded onto the boat here. This delay, combined with the ongoing issue of siltation at Heysham and the timing of the low tide there, meant there wasn't enough water to enter the Lancashire port until 3:30 a.m. It eventually docked there at 3:50 a.m, 4 hours later than it was supposed to. It was a journey these passengers certainly didn't enjoy.
They blamed it on the silt, but I can't imagine that they weren't aware of the silt before we set off. So we spent about 2 or 3 hours bobbing alongside the coast of England. Obviously, with the issues that we've got with the airport, has meant that flying is something that's not a reliable form of transport. And now with the boat as well, it's the fact that we have such a lack of communication from them as well. If they had been upfront and honest and just said, the sailing's not going to actually set sail until much later because we don't want to have you sat on a boat for 7 hours, that would have been preferable to being on the boat and then found out that obviously we're going to be held hostage effectively for the extra hours. And there were people who had left pets in cars that were quite distraught, people who had medication left in their cars that was timed medication that they then couldn't access. It really wasn't great.
I think generally the steam packet do a good job. The boat's good, the crews are good. They just need to communicate better what's going on. And at the end of the day, we own the steam packet, so as well as being passengers, we're owners. We should be getting a better service in terms of the communication. The website was not updated, so we were a long way into the journey, and the website said we were still going to arrive at 0050, which we clearly weren't. We'd been told we weren't. And even when we got into Heysham, the return sailing was shown as leaving at 03:30, even though we only got in at 03:30. I know it's the middle of the night, but this is a 24-hour service, so they do need to keep things like the website up to date.
What do you think about this? Is it something that affects you? Do you have any friends or family who are on that particular sailing? And surely Peel Ports know all about this. That Heasham's been silting up for years and years and years. It has to be dredged. It's on the west coast of England, which is gradually tilting out of the sea, very gradually tilting out of the sea. So that's happening. Any thoughts on this? And the fact that we actually own the boat, what do you think about that? Elsewhere, of course, Steam Packet's facing an ongoing dispute with seafarers, the union Nautilus. It's worth saying not everybody who works on the Steam Packet is in dispute with the Steam Packet, but certainly members of that union, Nautilus. It's balloting its member over possible industrial action. The crux of the dispute hinges around live-on-board arrangements, which officers have rejected. But the Treasury Minister, Dr. Allinson, says those arrangements will make the fleet more resilient. In fact, Dr. Allinson said the fact that the Manxman wasn't forced to return to Douglas on Wednesday night and instead waited until it could actually dock.
By having the live-on crewing of the Manxman, the ability for it to stay off the coast now for a couple of hours and then dock late, rather than having to come back to Douglas again. So I'm really sorry that people's embarkation and leaving was delayed, but I think by having the new vessel and the new crewing system, we've got a much more resilient way of actually getting people on and off the island. And certainly I know that the Steam Packet will be working very closely with Peel Ports in terms of what was happening at the port with the other vessels coming and going to make sure that we can get services back to normal as soon as possible. The Isle of Man Steam Packet Company is owned by government, but also when it was purchased for a considerable amount of money that came out of reserves, government made it quite clear that it was there to provide the service, but also to meet those debts, to finance the new ship, the Manxman, and certainly that's been debated in Tynwald, and we will continue to work with the company to make sure that we get the best service available to the people of the Isle of Man.
Now, a concern flagged by many listeners to Manx Radio was the impact of the mail delivery to the Isle of Man. Remember, now we don't have the mail plane per se anymore, although some mail does go off via scheduled air routes. The post office said, unfortunately, disruption to boat sailings, as was the case for flight disruption, can cause delays to the delivery of mail. The post office works hard to ensure any disruption has a minimal impact to customer deliveries. And as we approach the peak Christmas period, of course with Black Friday today, the post office urges all customers to order online and post as early as possible. It has to be said also, I don't think the Manx Independent arrived on time yesterday because of the boat. So that's not helping the newspapers with that. Now, of course, the newspapers have long been printed in the UK. Gone are the days when there used to be a printing press on Peel Road. It's been for many, many years now they've been printed in the UK, so they're reliant on the boat as well. So we do seem to be just a little, if you like, distance now. And certainly, as has been highlighted previously on Mannin Line, people who operate mail order businesses from the Isle of Man are now hopelessly disjointed now, because what used to be perhaps sometimes a 2-day turnaround now turns out to be a 4, possibly 6-day turnaround from receiving an order to getting it out. So it's just another bit, if you like, another bit of the Isle of Man that's kind of fallen off. We had another one this week, Barclays Bank closing in Castletown. But the fact that in terms of the post, and we understand the post is under pressure from commercial deliveries and parcel deliveries, and they said earlier on this week, basically they're down to making money out of parcels because people don't post letters as much as they used to, so it's parcels. But they don't do Saturday deliveries anymore. Saturday postal deliveries are long gone. All sorts of things seem to be that, the fact that we've got the short trips on the horse trams and nobody seems to be making any firm statement as to whether the horse trams will go through to the sea terminal, despite the fact that the report on the railways highlights the fact that we've now got 60-odd cruise liners coming in per year and possibly more next year, and they love the horse trams, but yet you can't get a horse tram from the sea terminal where the cruise liners come onto the Isle of Man. They have to get a bus halfway down the promenade to pick up the horse tram, which goes a couple of 100 yards to Derby Castle. Anyway, some thoughts on this. Also, next week, we're open line Monday through till Wednesday, but on Thursday, the two Russian MHKs are with us. It's going to be Juan Watterson and Michelle Haywood will be talking about things from the south, of course, but also their roles within Tynwald and within the House of Keys. So Michelle Haywood and Juan Watterson, the Russian MHKs, are live on Mannin Line next Thursday, as is Howard. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. No, just listened to you at the beginning of the programme saying about the delays on the steam packet. We used to get them with the Ben occasionally, not as much as what we've had with the Manxman. But I'm just thinking, with the aviation industry, with travelling by air, there's a moving scale of compensation payments for delays, breakdowns, hold-ups, otherwise. Is there such a system in the steam packet operation? Because
they tend to be quite flexible. I mean, that's the Manx bit of it, really. If something goes wrong, you can make your way down. You can actually see a human being, which in this day and age is quite remarkable. You can nip to the sea terminal and chat to the people at the desk. So, but I don't know about actual delays or any compensation for any problems caused by that.
Yeah, if you're going away, I know they're immediately going to say, well, if you've got a destination at a specific time, you should leave earlier. But a lot of people can't. They're in a business, they have people are working and can't get the time off, and they do have a finite time to travel. And if this is worked out to a timing schedule, and then suddenly, okay, weather, we can't account for weather. But some of the trials and tribulations of this new vessel, and she should be running flat out now and working her heart out. The Ben did. She came straight in, went to work. They did have a few problems to start with. They had to reballast it. But beyond that, she was a good seaboat. This one here seems to be very much like, well, the Camel, a horse designed by a committee. And she seems to be one of the few vessels that the steam packet have ever owned that seems to be problematic. And their decision was to load, or their reasoning was to load extra containers. Now, I don't know whether that's because they've been working on the Seacat link span, which is shallower, so they would have to obviously watch how deep she goes in the water, loading vehicles on. But there doesn't seem to be any communication between the passengers, etc., listen to what your people are saying on the radio. And this is what I wondered. Do they have a compensation scheme where if you are delayed significantly, are you entitled to any compensation on a sliding scale?
Well, as yet, we don't know about that. And in fact, I've never heard of anybody doing that. They maybe would say you could claim on your travel insurance.
But you shouldn't have to. You paid for that travel insurance, but it's not the travel insurance that should be covering this. You don't go to your travel insurance for an X number of hours delay on an aircraft. They have written into the operational procedure within the aviation industry a flexible compensation scheme, hours, days, or otherwise. And I just read of one yesterday where they'd been delayed, and they weren't delayed, they were taken off the aircraft because British Airways had sent a smaller aircraft out and couldn't accommodate all the people booked. And these people have just got nearly £11,000 in compensation because they had to pay for accommodation until the next day, plus various other aspects. Now, is there a similar scheme lying in the background and they're not broadcasting it? You know, they're very, very subtle. They seem to be very secretive these days.
And I think that's part of it. I mean, as the Treasurer Minister just said, you know, it's owned by Treasury, it's owned by government, which is basically us in the end, because we're the ones that vote government in. But it just seems to be that they kind of like to keep the cards close to their chest.
Yeah, well, it used to, a boss I used to work for always said, all they need to know, it's down to a level, need to know level. That's all they need to know. And that's what I think the mindset is behind the steam packet these days. It's all the public need to know. Don't tell them anymore.
All right.
And this is not going to help matters because, okay, the ship is problematic and the siltage, which is and has been all the time, even when Manx Viking was going there, has always been a problem. So, honest with the public, and your sins could be forgiven a little easier.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Howard. Have a good weekend.
And you, take care.
Cheers.
Bye
now. Let's go to Ken, who's with us now. Hi, Ken. Hi, Ken.
I'm just wondering why, when they cancelled Thursday morning's boat, Manx Isham, the previous day, when did they know about the bad weather? I got the arrow out. They have done now. The packet obviously don't boat Isham and load.
Hang on a minute, Ken. Sorry, I'm going to have to move on, Ken. We'll try and call you back, Ken, but your sound quality was a bit off there. David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just a comment, really, on management's interview. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday. They talked about the steam packet, and they said the boat was designed and built with live-on accommodation for the crew. When the boat was being designed and built, did the management not talk to the crew and say, this is what we propose? And if it couldn't be resolved, surely all those cabins that was going to house the crew could now be making money by fee-paying passengers. And further to that, it's if their terms and conditions or their contract of employment says that, when you finish your shift, you go offshore or you go to a hotel or wherever you do go, and they want to alter that. Because it's such a big shift in the terms and conditions, basically, people could say, well, I don't agree with that. You can make me redundant and get redundancy pay. Because you can't just alter people's terms and conditions willy-nilly and say, if you don't like it, you're down the road. We're in 2023. It's not 1943.
So, I mean, do you think this poses any sort of threat? I mean, it's kind of to the Isle of Man in terms of reputation.
Well, I'll give you an example. Well, I don't need to give you an example. We all know the last damage reputation done to the Isle of Man, and it cost us $3.2 million because management digged their heels in and said that we are right and you are wrong. And that's what's going to happen in January when it comes to the vote, and management of the steam packet are going to dig their heels in and say, right, you're down the road, but one comment the gentleman did say is the union doesn't understand the importance of the ferry, the link between the UK and the ferry, how important it is to the Isle of Man. I think it's the management don't understand that. The staff understand that.
Okay.
It's just they just typical of government. Dig your heels in, and eventually they'll have to, come round to our way of thinking. But I don't think this will happen this time. I don't see why, if you finish your shift, you don't have the choice whether to go off to a hotel or to home or whatever you want to do.
Okay. All right. We appreciate that. Thanks, David.
Okay, thank you.
It's not just us, by the way. It's not just the Isle of Man. A leading cruise ship company is being accused of planning to fire more than 900 staff members if they don't accept new terms and conditions. It is, in fact, Carnival Cruises. Maybe you've sailed, maybe you've cruised. They own P&O Cruises and Cunard. Carnival UK notified authorities of the fire and rehire plan one day after beginning talks with union members. It is union members of Nautilus. Nautilus said that Carnival showed that Carnival had no real intention to engage in meaningful negotiations. Carnival UK said it was categorically not making any redundancies. The staff who could be affected include 919 crew working across 10 vessels, including the Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mary II. Last year, a separate company, P&O Ferries, of course, became embroiled in a dispute over sacking 800 of its workers. By the owner DP World, the firm sacked staff without notice, replacing them with foreign agency workers who were paid less than the UK minimum wage. Later, the firm's boss admitted the sackings were illegal. Well, of course, we're not in the UK, and that was under UK law. But it's certainly, what's happening at the steam packet is now seems to be happening in Cunard, in Carnival Cruises UK. Just to say, I haven't seen a boom or monitoring buoy in Douglas Bay for over the past 24 months. They're willing to spend over £1 million with no backup on a wall. Typical of government at the moment. No idea of costs. That's Texter 200. I haven't seen the plans, says Derek, for this new wall on Douglas Promenade, but I assume the overtopping seawater can return to the sea without taking the wall with it. They had to drill holes in the concrete blocks of the one at Peel afterwards. Yes, Desmond says the secret is to remove the sand on Douglas Beach. You can build a 10-foot wall, but it won't take long before the sand builds up and blows onto the road again, says Des. This so-called housing association, we're talking about the housing association yesterday. It's the David Ashford, who's now the chair of the housing board, was talking about introducing this, and a housing association, they called it, to take over government properties, if you like, the state properties. The so-called housing association really is just a government quango. It'll be a housing association set up by communities in order to provide homes for those who otherwise couldn't afford them. The National Housing Association federations say they're not-for-profit social landlords that provide homes and support for around 6 million people right around England. Housing associations think that everyone should be able to live a good quality home and that they can afford it as well. They're working together to make it happen. Having developers and politicians setting up a quango-style entity and calling it a housing association is an attempt to gull the public into thinking that the proposal is a benign enterprise for the benefit of those who need social housing. It has politicians and developers running it, and they can do it on a profit motive. Mark says, this is, I think, what we're getting. The term that the Manx government's using is deliberately misleading. By setting up what they wrongly call a housing association with developers, it's something entirely different. With the stated makeup, it won't have the interests of people who can't afford houses here. It's not because they're poor either. People on normal salaries can't afford houses. That's why the young people are leaving the Isle of Man. A civil servant claimed this setup was equivalent to housing associations in the UK. He knows, says Mark, it's not true. It's nothing like UK-based housing associations. You have to question the stated motives for this and to consider what it's about. But you can be assured it won't be for the benefit of the Manx population, says Mark. Anybody have any thoughts on this, what they're calling a housing association that's going to be set up, taking over government DOI houses from government and running it? Yes, it probably will be an arm's-length entity. Now, Juan Watterson's on next Thursday with Michelle Haywood. And Juan Watterson, I just want to let you hear what Juan Watterson's had to say about Manx Care and the Isle of Man's health and social care services. Laurie Hooper presented Manx Care's annual report to Tynwald alongside a letter of assessment from his department, and they say that services are getting better, albeit slowly, and a lot of work to be done. But some politicians were critical of the documents, saying they didn't show effective progress. Juan Watterson MHK claimed it was something that he was concerned about right across government.
From the island plan down, I'm concerned that government seems to fail to put good plans together. It doesn't have objectives that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. It uses KPIs that are not necessarily directly linked back to the objective that's stated. And they use the writing of plans and strategies as a sort of way, as a proxy for achievement. But of course, that means nothing to the man in the street. So I think that there is an improvement generally needed in these plans in terms of what departments are actually going to deliver in real terms, rather than just creating paper, which seems to be what's done at the moment. So hence my comment that if you want to put something off for a year, you write a plan. If you want to put it off for the whole administration, write a strategy.
Are you confident that the new relationship with the department doing the regulation and the policy, and Manx Care doing the delivery, is actually going to provide the promised improvements in Manx healthcare delivery that were initially envisaged.
No, there's no evidence of success.
That's Juan Watterson. Did you hear what he said? No evidence of success. And if you want, you can have a chat with Juan Watterson about that next Thursday. He's on Mannin Line Live with Michelle Hayward, both Russian MHKs.
Looking for a great night out? Something a little different? Then join us at Mannin Hotel as we pay tribute to some of the best music acts in the world. Saturday the 9th of December, that'll be the day. You can see our Buddy Holly tribute night. For only £195 per couple, enjoy a night of your favourite music, a 3-course a la carte dinner, plus overnight stay and breakfast. Book now. Visit manninhotel.im or call 602 555.
Walk through the northern lights into a land of ice and snow at Ramsey Garden Centre. Indoor and outdoor lights, a magical range of real and artificial trees, decorations, gifts and much more. Christmas at Ramsey Garden Centre, Albert Road.
Mike has got the Conister feeling. Because despite his busy life, getting the finance to sort some home improvements was quicker and easier than he ever dreamt with Conister Bank.
You got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, yeah!
Ooh, and not even Conister can help improve his singing. Apply online today at conisterbank.co.im and you'll get the Conister feeling too. All loans are subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Early settlement fees apply.
Get more this Christmas with Shaw. Sign up to a Shaw Unlimited Max Pay Monthly mobile plan and get a £100 to spend in M&S. Unlimited data, our fastest download speed, 8 gigabytes of Zone 1 roaming data, plus a £100 M&S gift voucher. What more could you want? Visit us in-store or online at shaw.com. T's and C's apply.
Excited about starting your new business but feel daunted by accounts, tax and VAT? Then talk to Nicola Bowker & Co. before you do anything else. From expert advice to getting a helping hand, Nicola Bowker & Co. can help and guide you. Call 861 271.
With a recent run of good form under their belts, FC Isle of Man head back into action this weekend, hoping to continue their charge up the NWCFL Premier Division table. The Ravens welcome Cheadle Town to the Bowl this Saturday and looking to add to good results in recent weeks to keep pace with the big guns towards the top. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Meppen for FC Isle of Man versus Cheadle Town, kicking off this Saturday at 6 p.m. Manx Radio will be providing full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Fastermite, 26 minutes before 1, Friday lunchtime, live from Douglas in the Isle of Man. The steam packet says WhatsApp of 841 does offer compensation within their terms and conditions, although it's not overly generous. See under cancellations on the website, they only seem to apply where delays aren't caused by weather. So it probably won't ever work. Reports of minor damage. Text to 476. Charles, reports of minor damage to the Ben McCree recently. We don't know. All sorts of skeet about what happened. Apparently the anchors were clanging into the hull on the Ben McCree when she went to Belfast. We don't know how much it is, but all sorts of skeet. It could be millions. It could be hundreds of thousands. It could be a few thousand. We don't know, but we wait to hear from the company what sort of damage has been done to the Ben McCree. Dredge Fleetwood instead. Shorter journey, good communications, says John. Have you seen Fleetwood Harbour lately? I went to Knot End a few months back. There are parts of Fleetwood Harbour you can walk across now. It's very highly silted up. Very pleasant place. But no, and I don't think they don't have North Euston's close out. They've got lots of trams into Blackpool, but I don't think you've got a railway there as you have at Heysham. But Fleetwood, perhaps, maybe even Llandudno Pier. Bring that back. Has anybody in Ramsey noticed how low the water pressure is of late? Says Frank Francis. Frankie, is there a major leak or has it been turned down by the Manx utilities? Is the water pressure low in Ramsey? What had stopped the majority of stones and water at high tides was that the island that ran the length of the prom had the seats and shelters that were sat on. Of course, like the Civic Pride in Douglas, says David, it has gone. Compensation regarding delayed sailings. There is such a beast. Yes, it is. Everybody send me in the link now. Steampacket.com, conditions of carriage, and it is there, but not, again, completely generous, put it that way. The Manxman has been loading on and off via the link span used by the Fastcraft due to the upgrade works on the Edward VIII Pier, says James. And again, surely that should have been done before we got the new boat. If they knew all this was going to happen, the North Koreans, the South Koreans did their bit. They got the boat done on time, very much on time, and on budget. And it doesn't seem like we're entirely ready for it here. On the steam packet, I can't get my head around the company wanting staff to live aboard between shifts, says Texter 520. I can't imagine the steam packet executives ever agreeing to live aboard. When you're off work, the last thing you want to do is live at work. Ferry staff surely want to come ashore, relax and recuperate. Why have the steam packet spent public money on such an unfriendly idea for the staff? Thanks for that. Consider the state of Manx Care, the steam packet company, the airport, Island Energy, Tesco Monopoly, the waste of money on projects, and tell me what the government has done, says G. Well, I'm sure they'd tell you what they've done. In fact, I'll tell you for a fact, the Chief Minister will tell you what's done. Chief Minister's on the Wednesday before Christmas on Manx Radio, so we can ask him then. Thanks to everybody sending me details of the recompense you can get from the website. The housing association taking over the island will be a disaster and turn into a housing association cloaked with activity to benefit those. Who are those, Anne? Instead of just talking, why doesn't Mr. Ashford action an immediate programme to help those who could move out of social housing with a part mortgage? And there's the crux of it, Anne, or one of them. There are people stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea, the people who have got quite a high earning, which puts them out of social housing, which means they're stuck in private rental because they can't get a mortgage. So is it time for the government to enter into the market and manipulate the market? It will be manipulation to put in a financial product whereby young Manx people could get a government mortgage and move into a property with government help. So they would give them the mortgage to get them out of rental property and to purchase a house. Obviously, everything would have to be paid back, and if the house were sold in the meantime, the money would go back to the government. But is it time? It has worked in the past, and many people benefited from it in the past. Why can't they sort out the dredging of Heysham Harbour, says Andy. It's down to Peel Properties, nothing to do with us. The Peel Group own Heysham Port, so that's obviously something they have to do. Now, the shortened horse tramway, I think, is less attractive to cruise passengers. Keith emailed me to say, as many of the tramway enthusiasts and myself, who are regular visitors to the Isle of Man, have been saying for many a year, this scenario was bound to happen. The shortened horse tramway. As a simple country boy, I don't understand why, when the balance of the track bed to the sea terminal has been reserved and is ready for the track to be laid and funds have been allocated to do just that, why do the funds to complete the extension have to be taken from another project? I don't understand the thinking behind this and would appreciate if somebody could kindly explain to me the logic behind this. Keith, they took the money for something else, so it's not there. So they now have to find the money, vote on the money, put the money back, and then pay the money to put the horse tram back from Castlemona Avenue, where it is now, through to the sea terminal. Everybody agrees, well, they seem to agree, the will of Tynwald is that it should go back. There are some politicians who don't want it to go back. There are some civil servants who seem determined that it won't go back. Perhaps you don't want it to go back. There are people who don't want the horse trams on Douglas Promenade. Some people say they just slow down the traffic. And what use are they? However, if Visit Isle of Man is promoting the Isle of Man to 60-odd cruise liners who come here, people who come, drop their money for a day and clear off and go somewhere else. If we're advertising horse trams, surely they should go where they originally went from the sea terminal to Derby Castle. Otherwise, surely that will be fraudulent advertising. You know, to give them a couple of 100 yards of what used to be the horse tramway instead of what it is in its pomp and prime. On paper, it loses money. Of course it loses money. But really, are we running the horse tramway to make a profit? Or is it part of our tourism offering?
Construction waste today.
Tells recycle for another day.
A builder skip or two.
Tells skips will bring to you.
From cardboard to green waste.
Tells recycle for another day.
Metals and plastics too.
Tells skips are right for you.
Skips are what they do.
We're the guys that hire one to you.
Call Tells Skips today.
677 137.
Ho ho ho! Happy Christmas!
There's only one thing better than Everest double glazing, and that's their triple glazing. That's because their most thermal efficient windows work by keeping heat inside, helping reduce heating bills. And because we all need some energy efficient help right now, Everest are upgrading their new double glazing customers to triple glazing for free. Everest can't stop energy prices going through the roof, but they can through their windows. Minimum purchase and restrictions apply. See website for T's and C's.
The nights are getting darker, and you know what that means. It's nearly Christmas. At Millie Chaps, you'll find all you need to add that sparkle this festive season. Decorate your home with quirky ornaments, fabulous rugs and lamps, and beautiful pictures. Millie Chaps also have a great range of unusual gifts, so don't delay. Call Santa, is that you?
Shh. Ooh, there's some great finds here at Millie Chaps.
Yes, there are. Take time to browse Millie Chaps of Ramsey, a town full of special little shops.
In our quest to remove all single-use plastic from our milk packaging, Isle of Man Creamery cartons, including the new 1.75 litre carton, are now 100% recyclable, made from sustainable and renewable sources. We're the first in the British Isles to offer these new large cartons, and you can pick them up now in local retailers or add them to your Isle of Man Creamery doorstep delivery. Plant-based cartons from Isle of Man Creamery. Better for the environment, better for you.
Get ready for another winning weekend on Manx Radio.
And this weekend, we're giving you the chance to win £200 to spend at Lifestyle Furniture. Supporting breast cancer now, their biggest pink weekend is underway, with up to 70% off, as well as other pink sticker items in their 2 stores.
Visit manxradio.com and answer the competition question for your chance to win.
Then make sure you join us for Manx Radio Breakfast on Monday morning, when you'll find out if you're the lucky winner.
Make this your winning weekend with your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Howard's back. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Andy. Sorry to come on again. It's just something that you remarked on just before the adverts. But the horse trams and how they are stopped at Broadway, basically, and they've never been run right through to where the plan was. And one of the favourite sayings these days, not only the Isle of Man but everywhere, lessons will be learnt. And we often wonder what these lessons are that they learn, but the report that's due to come out next week, according to the DOI, or people, they're talking about reducing the length of the journey on the electric railway north of Laxey. And that is one of the most beautiful parts of the island where you can't see under normal circumstances by car. All down through Mackle, Bulgham and all that area there. It's lovely. And there they are. They're talking about destroying that. But they've just rebuilt the Ballure Bridge and got prizes for the conception and the construction. And this is where government they're chasing their tail all the time and getting nowhere. The horse trams, that's a classic example. They just said people are not using them as much as they would do if they went all the way to the sea terminal. There's the tourist board, or as we call them these days, the Department of Enterprise, trying to encourage more people to come in by cruise liners and taken the facilities away that these people will use. Now, somewhere, somebody is not doing their job within government, and the reducing, they did it once before with the electric railway. It ceased to operate between Laxey and Ramsey, and that is going to turn Ramsey, well, into a partial ghost town. And you just had an advert on there now saying Ramsey, the town of little shops. And it will be little shops, very little shops, because people, well, they just won't be able to make a living.
So you just wonder, is this because the late lamented Department of Tourism is no more? Now, with tourism has been kind of hollowed out into Visit Isle of Man, and, we had the boss on a wee while back, the chair and the boss, saying that they are basically facilitators. They connect government to the people who do it. In terms of budget, they don't have that much budget. They've got, apart from the staff that they pay, they don't have that much budget. So we're trying to visit Isle of Man, we're trying to sort of tell them to do a job and tying their ankles together.
Well, this is not a new thing. It's the last 20 years or more that they just seem to have a paper trail of garbage and gibberish and nothing coming out of it. And this is a classic example. They've got something sitting on the promenade there now that's a tourist attraction. They're ignoring it. They've spent the money elsewhere. The people cannot use it because it's not there, and they're going to do more or less the same with the electric railway. Many years ago, it was under a different situation, but the steam train used to only go to Castletown. And now it goes all the way to Port Erne, and it's well used. So are they going to do more or less the same with the electric railway? They're going to destroy our heritage. And for the sake of a few pounds, because that thing's there. They've done a tremendous amount of work, and the staff are working. I've been down in the facilities down there at Derby Castle, and those people are dedicated beyond. They're there, and they put the hours in, and they put the work in, and the skills. And the government is sitting in their ivory tower and, we've crossed that bit off. We don't need them. They're costing us money.
You just wonder what the thinking is. And, let's be benevolent, let's be charitable about this and say this, that the people in charge have got honest intent. But you just wonder whether they actually understand that the Isle of Man heritage railway system is unique. We can safely say, sitting here on a Friday afternoon, that there's nowhere else in the world that has what the Isle of Man has for heritage railways. And you're right. You tinker with it at your peril.
The only place you'll find anything like on a similar lines are museums. And there's Christchurch, Beamish and things like that. But you only have to look across the UK and the number of steam railways that are coming back on heritage lines. And some of the amazing engines, locomotives, etc., that are being restored. Yeah. And here we are, going the opposite way.
But we have the electric railway, we've got the mountain railway, Snowfell Mountain Railway, the steam railways, we've got the horse trams, we've got the little ones like Groudle Glen, the Laxey Mines Railway, we've got all those, we've got the one at the wildlife park, for heaven's sake, we've got all that stuff, and yet you just wonder, the whole thing, if you like, is greater than the sum of its parts. But the moment you start taking things out, it's like a game of Kaplunk. The thing could fall apart.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Howard, you were saying earlier on that we when you said that we've always had great ships on the steam packet, it rang a bell in my head.
Go on.
Mona's Isle. The Mona's Isle. Do you remember the Mona's Isle?
I do, sailed on it many times. Not the first one.
No, the one in the 1980s.
Well, yes, I have the plans for that, and I would like to be able to build it.
What with that big thing that she had on the back that got built on?
Yeah, and that is on the hotel at Santon. That is the three legs of man that you see on the hotel at Santon. And the big chunk that's missing out of it was actually missing when it was on the ship. And the chap that used to have the the building's all there, John Moore. He went when they were scrapping it and bought a lot of the timber and that huge emblem from the back and various other items, and they all lay in the storage where the Santon Motel is now.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Howard.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Good to hear from you. Vernon's with us now. Hi, Vernon.
Morning, Andy. Andy, this business about the trains, the electric trams and the horse trams.
Yeah.
Between 2015 until we had COVID, I drove for a company from London who brought in a party of anywhere between 15 and 20 Japanese people from Tokyo. They landed at Manchester Airport, spent the night at Manchester. The next day they flew to the Isle of Man on the first plane, which got in at, I think it was 9:35. And I took them from the airport with a friend with a minibus to the sea terminal, where we boarded them onto a horse tram, and they delighted in going across the bay on the horse tram to Strathallan. We'd already organised for a tram to take them to Laxey, and when they arrived in Laxey, they were boarded onto the Snaefell Mountain Railway, which they really enjoyed. And if there was enough time, because they were then going to get the horse tram possibly back across the promenade again, and we used to take them to the railway station. And there was a lovely restaurant above the railway station, and they had a meal there, and they were on the 2 to 2:15 train to Port Erin. And after their trip to Port Erin, they then got on, we took them to the airport and said cheerio. And that has not been revived. So I don't know why, but I know I don't drive anymore. But nobody's taken it on board.
Do you think?
Particularly in government.
Do you think that government, if you like, and again, I want to be charitable. Let's just say that government want to do the right thing by the railway system. But do you think the government have got the right idea about where the future lies with our heritage railways?
I think they've got a plan to get rid of it. I really do. I've been using I get that £35 residence ticket now, and I go down to Port Erin at least twice a week on the train and come back. It's excellent value for money in the way between March and end of October.
Okay. Thanks, Vernon.
Okay, Andy.
Good to hear. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, Vernon. And Renee is with us now. Hello.
Hello. Many years ago, when they stopped the MER from travelling from Laxey to Ramsey, they restarted it because they found, for some reason they didn't know why, visitors were not travelling in the numbers from Douglas to Laxey. Once they reopened it, then they came back. Some of them only turned round at Laxey, but they stopped it.
So do you think the government, I mean, Vernon says he thinks they've got a plan to close the lot.
Are they so stupid? I know they're inept, but are they stupid as well?
Well, they say that, I mean, this report's going to come out, and apparently the report, although we haven't seen it, some people have seen bits of it, that it's a tourist attraction and we should be cherishing it. But you just wonder, at the back of it all, what is going to happen, Renee?
Well, how can we be different if we conform to every other easy fish and chip place?
All right. Thanks for calling today. Have a good weekend. We appreciate your call. I want to just draw your attention to the fact that this coming Sunday, beach buddies are at Pool Vashler in the south, binning all that bad stuff from the beaches. Lots of recent storms and lots of rubbish washes up when the storms happen. So if you do have time to get down to Pool Vash this coming Sunday, it's 10:30. through until about midday. Poolvash Farm is always very busy, and they're very grateful for the constant support of the Gorn family, who will give them permission to go through the farm. So please park politely away from farm implements, if you like. So that's this coming Sunday. If you can help, then by all means do. And this Sunday is also midnight. This coming Sunday is also the cut-off point for that survey about the oral hygiene of 5-year-olds on the Isle of Man. So again, if that's something that affects you, go to gov.im. There's a link through to the survey on the oral hygiene habits of 5-year-olds. Obviously, well, they can get an NHS dentist, can't they? Whether or not they'll be able to get one in the future, who knows? Got a question also about, Emma said to Andy, is there a shortage of HRT on the Isle of Man? Apparently there's a shortage of HRT in the UK. Women like myself going through the menopause aren't able to access the treatment. Is that true? Back with an open line on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Stick around. Christie's on the way.
WINT